Hello again. The basic unit of society is not the individual, but rather the family. It is, or at least it should be, families who raise children and teach them the values by which they should live. This is how it has been for almost the whole of recorded history, and it was like that in Britain too until relatively recently. Somewhere along the line, though, a peculiar notion became prevalent, which was that parents could not be trusted to look after their own children and explain to them about matters such as religion and sex and the way to live. This was instead a job for trained representatives of the state, and the earlier they could get hold of children to introduce them to correct ideas about race, gender, sex, and all kinds of other subjects, the better it would be, not only for the child, but also for society as a whole. This is working, of course, on the principle that what is good for the hive is good for the bees. This idea used to be very popular in places like Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia, that the individual should be taught that his function is to think and behave in such a way as will benefit the corporate state. I have never subscribed to this view. I regard the family as the best place for a child to learn about his or her responsibilities towards society. In this country, schools now routinely teach children all kinds of things which I think are really none of their business. They tell them, for instance, that homosexual relationships are every bit as healthy and satisfying and good for people as heterosexual marriage, that a single parent raising a child is just as good for the kid as being brought up by the mother and father together, that they must worry about the Arctic ice melting, that black people lived in Britain at the time of the Romans, that generating electricity with windmills is as efficient as using fossil fuels or nuclear energy. Because most children have been brainwashed into thinking that their teachers are wiser and better informed than their parents, the children swallow all this, and by the time they leave school, the 15 years or so of daily indoctrination has done its work. The Jesuits used to say, "Give us a child until he is 7, and he is ours for life." The corporate state in Britain has gone one better and says, "Give us a child until he is 18, and he will be a model citizen who is boundlessly enthusiastic about sex changes and the plight of polar bears, who will shun alcohol and tobacco in favour of fair trade coffee, and who will subconsciously believe that the Tories are doing the devil's work." The problem is, though, that legally, compulsory education in Britain does not begin until the age of 5. And if children remain with their mothers and fathers for the first 5 years of their lives, then there's no telling what ways of thinking their parents will be teaching them. It doesn't bear thinking about. This is how parallel societies start, isn't it? With groups of children being taught a different set of values and beliefs from those promoted by the state. It is for this reason that the tendency has been to get children into school and nursery at an ever younger age. First, it was getting them to start school at 4 rather than 5, then 3, and now they are to be offered free childcare in a state-run establishment from the age of just 9 months. Trust me, it won't end there. Another few years and the government will be offering to take charge of the babies at 6 months or even younger. I'm not a fan of schools at all, which is why I didn't send my own child there for a single day. But I realise that many people find them useful. We should, though, resist the efforts of the government to get access to our children at such an early age as is now being suggested. The family is the bedrock of a stable society, and the current trend to celebrate single parents, homosexual marriages, sex changes, and all the rest of it is a way of striking at traditional families. So too is encouraging people to trust the state with their 9-month-old babies rather than looking after them themselves.